Next in the series is the for loop, and right after the for loop we have for in loop. So let's understand for loop first. For loop is very important loop which is used widely in all programming languages and scripting languages. We will not use while or do while loop as much as you use for loop. So try to pay all your attention in this concept and try to learn each and everything from this video. So let's discuss this now. For loop has three components. Okay, and these three components are the initialization, then we have condition check, okay, and after condition check, okay, and after condition check we have increment or decrement operators. So all of these are declared initially, and in the blocks of for loop you can write statements. So the syntax is we have a for loop here, then we write initialization, then we write a semicolon, and after that we write condition, and then we put a semicolon again, and then we write increment or decrement, and after that we write curly brackets, and in the curly brackets we write the statements that we want to repeat again and again. So all of these three components are separated by a semicolon. So it is a very simple loop and nothing is much complicated. Let's try to understand with an example. So I just delete this part first, and I will write for, and in brackets I will write I, which is a variable, is equals to 0. Then I put a semicolon, then I write I is less than 5, then again I put a semicolon, and then I write I plus plus, and after that I will write curly brackets, and in curly brackets I write the statements that I want to repeat again. So I write document dot write, and then in the parenthesis I will again write the same thing as I wrote in the previous video. So I write loop number equals to, then I will concatenate using a plus, and then I write the value of I, then a semicolon, and again same thing, but this time I need a br tag, so I write it as a string. And now we don't need to write increment or decrement again because I have already written it over here. So that's all. Simply write variable initialization. So this is the initialization, then the semicolon, after that the condition for number of times to repeat, then again a semicolon, and then the increment or decrement operator, then put curly brackets, and in the curly brackets just write down all the statements you want to repeat. So let's see the output on web browser. So save this file and refresh the web page. You can see we are getting the same thing that we got through the while loop or the do while loop, and the only difference is that we write all the components in a single line in for loop, which is compact, but in while loop we write all three components separately, which increases the length of the code and looks complicated. And one more thing that I want to tell you, the flow of for loop. So what we actually have in the for loop, when a flow comes to the for, it checks the keyword for, then the flow comes to I equals to 0, which is the initialization part, then this is the condition part, and this is the increment or decrement part. So the flow comes to the initialization part. It initializes the value of I to be 0. Then we have then the flow comes to the condition check part. It checks the condition, and after checking the condition, the flow comes, if the condition is true, the flow comes to the inside of the block, and it do not go to the increment or decrement. So it executes the statements, and when it reaches the last statement, after executing the last statement, it goes to the increment or decrement part. So it increases or decreases the value as per specified, and after that the flow will again go to the for, but this time it do not initialize the value of I again. Then the flow will go from for to again the condition check, where it checks the condition, and the flow will get inside the brackets. So we get this executed of the statement, and then again the flow goes to the increment or decrement, and this goes on until the value of I becomes false. So we can write it something like this. We can just write like this also, and if I write this thing also, I just write the condition here, and if I write variable I is equals to 0, I initialize the value of I just above the for loop and without initializing it in the for loop, and at the end of the at the last statement I write I plus plus, okay, sorry, I plus plus. Then also I just change the value of condition check to the 10. I save this file and I go back to the browser and I refresh the page. You can see we are getting the same thing, but this time I have just changed their places. I initialized value of I just before the for, and I increase this the value of I in the for. So that does not make any difference. You can do whatever you want to wish. Also you can write like this thing here also. So in this case the loop will be an infinite loop. So that's the thing that you want, the convenience on you. So these three loops are the basic loop that we use mostly in all our languages, and right after this we have for in loop, and I think we should cover it in the next video class. So that's all for this video, and thanks for watching, friends.